Welcome to the Crazy Chicken People podcast. If you're crazy for chickens, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Hope that everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. Very excited to have you join me today. I've got a topic that I think is kind of interesting that I'd like to talk a little bit about. But before I do, I wanted to share a quick personal story. About a week ago, somebody that I had sold some chicks to back about 3 months ago reached out to me. And short story was that they ended up with some roosters out of the birds that they got from me, which we had talked about. And I told them, if you end up with some roosters down the road, just let me know and I can take them back, or I can help you find a place for them, or we'll figure something out. So they did end up with some roosters. They reached out to me. I went and met with them yesterday, and it was actually a really great experience. We met up in the evening, and I got to see the setup that they had built for their chickens. Just really made me smile. You could see that they really love these birds, and they were a backyard pet for them. Really, it looked like they had a nice coop and run set up, and then they got kind of the whole run of the backyard area. You could just really see this family love their chickens, and they had taken a lot of time with them. They had a really good relationship, even with the roosters. And you could see that they had a lot of one-on-one time. So I got to hang out with them for a little while, and I ended up taking them some hens so that they could get their flock numbers back to where they wanted. And I ended up bringing these roosters home. Just got them into their bachelor pad set up last night and got to spend a little time with them in the evening and then again this morning. And they've got a great temperament. I haven't seen anything aggressive out of them. You can just really see that they were raised with love, and they were never shunned or put in a position where they probably had to feel defensive or anything. Anyways, I'm really excited to have them with me. They're going to make a great addition to the rest of my free-ranging flock. Already kind of started to try to introduce them to each other. The rest of the flock has been kind of walking around and checking them out through the walls of the bachelor pad, and actually just open up the door so that they could start to come out if they'd like to, although so far they've kind of poked their heads out a little bit, but that's about it. I'm sure over the coming days and weeks we'll get them all integrated. So anyways, just something I was excited about, and kind of a reminder that, for those of you who can't keep roosters, you may end up with one on accident at some point and be thinking about what you're going to do with them. Just know that there's options out there. As long as you can find something humane that you feel good about, and you can send that rooster somewhere where he can have a good life. They're really great, and for the people that can keep them, I think they really enjoy them. So, okay, now on to the show. So something that I've started to look into a little bit and read up on, because I think if I can get, at least fairly well educated on this, it's going to be beneficial for my flock in the long term. And that is feeding some of the wild plants that grow around the house or the backyard or your garden to your chickens. Now, I know a lot of you probably have free-ranging flocks, so they're already exposed to a wide variety of wild plants and probably getting a good, balanced, nutritional diet because of that, which is great. But I think you might still learn a few things on the nutritional side listening today. And for those of you in a position where you do need to keep your chickens in an enclosure, in their coop and run, which a lot of people just are in that position, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this might give you a good chance to expose them to some of the things that they're not getting because they are in that enclosure. So as I had mentioned, I've got a combination of free-ranging birds, and I've got part of my flock that, for the most part, stays within their coop and run. And for those birds that are enclosed, I really try to bring some of their outside surroundings into them. And so that might mean, small logs and branches to create sort of a natural atmosphere, some leaves and pine needles and rocks that they can jump on or hide behind. I really try to make it feel as natural in there for them as possible. And sometimes that includes whatever sort of wild plants are growing all over the place that most of the other birds and goats eat, and toss it in there, and they absolutely love it. Usually sprinkle it around, and they get a chance to hunt it down and grab it and run around with it and find whatever piece it is that they think is the best one and feel happy that they got it. They just get really excited for it. And even though I think they kind of see it as a treat, which is great because it does keep them coming after it, there's actually really good nutritional benefits that are going to come to your flock by feeding them this kind of forage diet. And it starts with just the additional nutrients and minerals and vitamins that they probably aren't getting with their regular feed. It's also a very cost-effective way to help supplement their diet. I know there's a ton of different chicken treats available on the market, and some of those are probably really good. And then there's probably some that are, like the equivalent of candy, which, once in a while, no big deal. But if you want something really healthy that probably doesn't cost you anything at all, some of these wild plants are going to be a really good option. And on top of the fact that they are very nutritious, that they are free, another thing is you're going to be adding some enrichment to your chickens' lives, kind of some natural foraging opportunities for them, which is, really just more their natural behavior, and it's going to keep them mentally stimulated. And these are all very good things for your flock, and something you really want to promote, is giving them something new to dig around, a new kind of structure to play on. You want to keep them from getting bored, because that actually can start to lead to some unhealthy behaviors. Okay, so as a backyard chicken keeper, you decide you do want to try maybe mixing in a few wild plants with your chicken's diet, but you don't have a background in horticulture or ethnobotany. So how do you determine which wild plants are safe and right for your chickens to consume? And because there is a lot of wild plants that are safe for chickens, there's still a lot that are not. So it is important to exercise some caution and do your research. There's actually some apps you can get on your phone that will help identify common backyard plants. Pretty easy to use and generally pretty accurate. And there's plenty of other reliable resources out there as well. There's books on these things. You can certainly find online forums that talk about them. Pretty easy to match what you see in your yard to pictures you can find on the internet of those plants and do a little bit of research on them. You might even do some research on what wild plants do grow in your area and identify the common ones that are safe and unsafe for your chickens to eat. And once you do feel good about knowing what in your area is going to be safe to give to your chickens, keep in mind that it's wise to introduce these things gradually to them and really monitor your chickens for any adverse reactions. Remember that not all the wild plants are safe, so always err on the side of caution if you're not sure. Chickens do have a sensitive digestive system, so a sudden dietary change might lead to some issues. You really want to take things very slowly. Offer small amounts at first. See if they're interested. You may have read or even seen yourself, chickens are pretty good about avoiding things they should not eat. Just part of nature, I guess, but I think they've got a good feel, or maybe they take that first peck and just some instinct in them tells them not to eat it, but you wouldn't want to ever throw anything into that coop or into that run that could possibly harm them. So do your research, figure out the ones that are safe, and dealing with just a small number of plants, you can keep it pretty simple. And then over time, you can start to increase that proportion of wild plants that you're including in their diet, while still ensuring that they're receiving good balanced nutrition from the regular feed that they've been getting as well. Now, a couple of special considerations and precautions that you should keep in mind if you do decide to start feeding some wild plants to your flock. You want to make sure that the wild plants you do offer them are totally free of any pesticides, non-organic fertilizers, any sort of chemical really. There's plenty of plants out there, so there's no reason to feed them anything that isn't totally natural. So if you're using like a non-organic fertilizer on your back lawn, I would suggest not pulling any of the weeds that you might actually find on that list of beneficial plants. Don't give it to them if it's coming from a unnaturally fertilized lawn or part of your garden. So you wouldn't want to go grab something at the park. Pretty good chance that they're spraying those things down with a fertilizer or an herbicide or pesticide. Avoid areas where plants might have been exposed to a lot of pollutants. Something that's growing right on a busy street might not be the best. And then double check the ID of each plant, until you start to get really good at identifying the certain species that do grow around there. Just be sure that the plant you believe you're feeding them is in fact what you're giving. And then just remember that this is just a supplement to their diet. It's not meant to replace it entirely. a good quality balanced feed or something that you might be mixing up yourself with the correct measured ingredients, that should still be the foundation of their diet. So now if you want to go out and start looking for some of these plants that you might start feeding to your chickens, there's actually a list of some pretty common ones that grow all across North America. Chances are you're going to find some of these, if not in your yard, very close to you. And what's kind of cool is that these more common and easily identifiable plants are also extremely nutritious and going to be a really good add to your chicken's diet. So I did want to hit on a few of those. The first one, and I'm going to say it is crazy to me that this flower, and I say flower, not weed, that this flower has somehow become like the face of the toxic herbicide business, and that is dandelions. These could be considered a superfood because they are so nutrient dense. They're going to contain calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, some antioxidants, including vitamin A, K, and C, and can help support the immune system and will help reduce inflammation. So I'm not going to go out and gather the hundreds or thousands of these it would take to probably do much for me, but certainly grabbing a few of them and throwing them into your chicken run, I can tell you that they are going to love it. And you're going to see probably your boss hen, or maybe it's the rooster in your coop. They are going to be picky about grabbing what I think they see as some of the best flowers, and they'll grab it and they're going to run around with it and find a place to have that all for themselves. They're really going to love them. So it's a great flower, super common. I mean, if you've got them growing maybe in your garden and, again, you're not using a pesticide or anything back there, I would absolutely pluck those things out. Make sure that it is in fact a dandelion, and go ahead and give those to your chickens and see how happy they are with them. Another one of those that are fairly common is chickweed. I mean, I think the name alone almost kind of tells you it's probably for chickens. Chickweed is rich in minerals, including calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, zinc, and copper. So when your hens are eating chickweed, not only is it going to bolster their health a little bit, but the eggs they produce are going to be a little bit more nutrient dense than usual, which is great. Another is plantain. So this one has a very high nutritional value. Plantain is edible, as far as I could find, by anybody. Humans and animals alike can eat this plant safely. Contains high amounts of vitamin A and C, is also rich in calcium. Now, there's also some studies, and, check them out and take them as you will. But there's some that have shown plantain could be an effective means of controlling the invasion of the organism that can be responsible for causing coccidiosis in chickens. I didn't say the name of that organism because I can't pronounce it, and I'm sure I would butcher it, but that's something I'm going to look into some more myself. I'm certainly not trying to sell plantain as a natural vaccine for this or anything. But again, that information is out there, and I'd say read up on it and, see what you make of it. And then the last that I was going to mention that is also very common is clover. Clover is going to be high in vitamin A and B. It's going to contain potassium, iron, and protein. Like dandelions, it can help to improve digestive systems, their circulatory and respiratory systems. And the eggs from hens that feed on clover have been found to be higher in omega-3 fat. So another bonus to that one. And that's just a small handful of them. Like I said, if you are interested in this, take a good look at what grows local in your area. You'll probably find some more plants that also have really great benefits. I actually also just started growing a couple of things myself. I planted some oregano and some mint, both again, which, have some properties that have been shown to be beneficial to chickens. The oregano, I'm not exactly sure the best way to get that one to them yet. They haven't really liked nibbling on it, but I've sprinkled a little bit in their feed. I've also heard of just putting it in or around their nesting boxes and through the coop. So I'll sprinkle some in there. The mint, my free rangers are just absolutely going at that mint plant. I've got it growing in a container that's surrounded by 2x4 no climb. But anything that grows close enough that they can reach in there and get, which is a pretty good portion of it, they're going after. And then I'll reach inside and I'll pluck some leaves and I'll put it in the other chickens' water containers, or sometimes just throw the leaves on the ground. And they don't eat a ton of it, but they definitely take in a little bit. So I'm sure they feel like they're getting the right amount for themselves out of it. So to close, I would say if this does interest you, do a little bit of research. Make sure you exercise some caution. The last thing I would want is to find out that anybody had fed something to their chickens that ended up being poisonous for them. Just make sure you know what it is you're putting in there for them to eat. But I do really like the idea of using a more natural approach to keeping my flock healthy. Call it preventative maintenance. I'm not so strictly committed to the natural course that if I think it's necessary, I won't go grab a bottle of whatever medicine I think I'm going to need to help save an animal's life. I just like to think that I'm trying to do everything that I can before it gets to that point to help keep them healthy, to find some sort of a balance between those two sides. I hope that you found this informative. Hope it gave you something to think about and that you'll maybe consider taking a look in your backyard, seeing what you can find. If you have anything that you'd like to add to this, if there's anything that you want to let me know that I got terribly wrong, I would love to hear about it. If you'd like to reach out to me on social media and send me a message directly, you can find me on Facebook, Thomas Xenos. I always check my messages, so hope to hear from you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Talk to you again soon.